Welcome back into Jacket Sports Weekly, episode 11. We got a lot to unpack today. First, we're going to start with some wrestling, talk about the men's and women's side. Then basketball, recap of what's been going on there. Then finally, soccer is still in it. Stay tuned to find out why.
Welcome to Jacket Sports Weekly, Waynesburg University's weekly sports show where we cover the best of the best in athletics. Our analysts discuss a multitude of highlight plays such as touchdown passes.
And Barber's going to throw again, one-on-one. Does he got it in him? That's a catch! Tyler Richmond with flags thrown everywhere makes the catch! Touchdown, Waynesburg!
And ones.
This was low, Waynesburg's going to get it! Suggs is going to pull away here, go for the layup, and it's going to fall in and one! PJ Suggs!
And home runs.
Higgins drives one to left field. The left fielder running back, and that ball is out of here. Grace Higgins.
Join us every Wednesday to see what's new in Waynesburg University athletics.
Welcome back into JSW. I'll be your host for today, Seth Adams. We got a lot to unpack. Let's start with some wrestling. There have been a couple tournaments these last couple of weeks, and today I have to talk about that with Cole Keller. Now, Cole, let's stay on the men's side first. They just did the Alfred State tri-match with St. John Fisher and Alfred State. Kind of give us a recap of that entire tri-match.
Yeah, so Waynesburg dropped both of their matches. To St. John Fisher, they lost 50-3. Jesse Orban picking up the only win, 7-4. Like I said, being the only lone winner. But there was another good wrestler in that matchup, AJ Tomeno at 184 pounds. He lost his match by a major decision, but still, it was 16-4. And then going up against Alfred State, they lost 42-12. Jesse Orban, once again, picking up another win, finishing 2-0 in that tri-match. Austin Fleming secured a pin. So did Orban. And overall, at the end of it, St. John Fisher won, beat Alfred State 42-6. So both these teams, they're both really hard teams to wrestle against. And I really don't know what more you could have expected from Waynesburg. Jesse Orban having another stellar season, already off to a great start.
And you mentioned Jesse Orban a lot there. Are there any other guys on the team that have kind of competed or are looking up, had kind of a better battle than they usually have, but some potential for this team?
I think one that just immediately pops right into my mind is Austin Fleming. Like I said, he may have lost his first match against St. John Fisher, but against Alfred State, he did pick up a win, which I think was very key. And even though they lost 42-12, it was key into showing what they have, especially going up against Washington and Jefferson December 4th.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, W&J is coming up right around the corner. They're 1-4 on the year so far. Not the best start from a team that we've seen have a lot of success these last couple of years, but how can they prepare for this for WJ? What can they really do to make sure that they're ready for this one?
Well, wrestling, it's pretty much all in your mind. It's not like any other sport. It's one-on-one, so if it's your fault, it's your fault. Yeah. You can't blame it on anybody else, and I think that's the mentality that they're going to have and going to have to show. I mean, it's W&J. It's a rivalry across every single aspect of everything, and I think, you go out, that's just another person. If you keep that mindset and you go out there, we're going to see Orban probably catch a win. We're going to see Fleming. He's wrestling very well so far, especially starting off the season. And I think there are going to be some other surprises. Braden Barbeo, we may see him have another win. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I'm not sure which way I would lean to on who can get that win.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's transition over to the women's side. So they last competed at the Millersville Collegiate Open. Kind of recap that. Who did we see? Who was better than before? Just give us a little recap of that.
So Waynesburg finished 9th out of 15 teams there at that Open. And I think somebody who immediately caught my eye, I was looking at the Flow Wrestling, the championship brackets, Ja'Kiah Matthews at 207 pounds, arguably best day out of any Waynesburg women's wrestler. In her first match in the championship bracket, she won with a pin in 51 seconds. And then she went on to win by tech fall 10-0 in the semifinals. Or in the quarterfinals, rather, forgive me. In the semifinals, she was defeated with a pin in 39 seconds. But in the consolation semis, she wrestled a very close match for the whole first period. And in the second period, with a minute and 30 left, she ended up getting pinned and finished 2-2 on the day. But she really caught my eye, especially when you looked Pitt Johnstown when they faced off against Waynesburg. Waynesburg forfeited the 207-pound weight class, so Ja'Kiah Matthews has emerged as somebody who can definitely fit into that role.
So we got one more coming up, or the next one coming up. It's a John Carroll women's duel. What can we see from that? Who should we expect from that?
Well, John Carroll, 1-0 on the season. 40-10 is their only matchup. They beat Heidelberg 40-10. And Ja'Kiah Matthews, like I said, If she wrestles in that, I think that she'll be able to secure a win. I think somebody else who I really didn't get to talk about was Anastasia Caretti. I mean, she had another great day at the Millersville Open. She won by fall in her first match for the championship bracket and then lost by a pin to slip into the consolation bracket, where she won the first consolation match. But then whenever she went up into the semis, she ended up losing that match via a pin. And I think Waynesburg is still very young into, obviously women's wrestling is still a very young sport, but Waynesburg's kind of building a tradition, at least in the sense of that they're going uphill rather than just plateauing.
Yeah, and they've only been in the conference for so long. I mean, only a couple years under their belt. It's going to take a while to kind of formulate a team, formulate a reputation in the PAC as well. Well, thank you so much, Cole, for talking about wrestling with us. When we come back, we're going to be talking about women's basketball, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back in, and we're going to be talking about some women's basketball. They got a couple of games under their belt after playing the Coaches versus Cancer Classic. A couple games there and playing Carlo, where we're breaking down all those games. And who I have with me to break it down is Joe Chirillo. Thank you, Joe, for joining us. Let's talk about this tournament first. They played a game where it was a pretty competitive one, and then another one where was not the case. So kind of just give us an overall of the tournament and your thoughts on it.
So overall, facing off against William Patterson, they are one of the teams that went to the ECAC Championship. Last season, they faced off against Allegheny in that game. It's a tough competitor. They won 21-9 overall in their season last season. So starting it off, it was a little bit of a rocky start. That one went 84-44. It was a 40-point difference. Waynesburg not able to come out on top on that one. The big thing just to highlight is that they were able to get time out there as a team together. Now, me personally, I wouldn't start off the season being 4 hours away on a tournament. It's just not the greatest way to really start off the season.
It's a far drive, I mean.
Exactly. It's a far drive. It's out where I live. I understand it. It's not ideal, but again, you're able to participate in this event. Yeah. It's not only a tournament for basketball, but it's also for a great cause with the versus cancer 100%. Portion of it. So the William Patterson game didn't go as well planned. Then you go into the Salisbury game. A little bit of a better competition. Went really down to the wire. Mainly Salisbury came out with the win 76-70 in that one. Calista Friday came away being on the all-tournament team for that weekend, so congratulations to her. 23 total points against Salisbury overall. Great outing for them. Although they did go 0-2, I think they were able to learn a little bit about themselves, also being without of their forward, Jules Moorbacher, who's currently with the soccer team.
Soccer.
That's one of the things that we'll probably touch on here later. But overall, great competition.
Yeah, and yesterday, or Tuesday, we want to call it, we're filming this on Wednesday, they played the Carlo Celtics in Carlo and had a dominant win, 81-56. Joe, who were some key players that really made this game dominant?
It really came down to Claire Page Miller. She was able to get that ball in and out of the areas that they needed in those first three quarters. Now, majority of that fourth quarter was held by substitutions. Coming into that game, Maddie Hall, Madison Platt were one of the key contributors in that fourth quarter. So that was mainly area where they were able to just see what can their bench players do, put them in situations that are against the starting team. What are we going to come out with that? But with Claire Page Miller, 13 total points, had 5 total boards on the night. An amazing outing from her. In this game overall, it went really down to the fact of what is the bench going to be able to do in their future. They had, out of the 14 available players that they had yesterday, they had 12 score points in this game. And a lot of those 12 scored in the fourth quarter. So it really just comes to show that even when it gets down to the wire, they're going to still play well. And one of the things that we've touched on here on Jacket Sports Weekly, with myself at least, in the past years, has been the third quarter. It has not been a Lady J specialty. Let's just say that. And so I went and looked. When was the last time that they had a third quarter as great as this one? It was February 8th of 2025, 283 days ago. Now, to be clear, they haven't really played a whole lot of games since then, but it just goes to show that they've continued to work on it. Even late in that season last year, now into this season, it didn't go well for them in their first 2 games, but this third quarter with 29 total points, it was their best quarter that they had yesterday against Carlo. helped them get that win.
Even in the first quarter too, Joe, they started out the game up 24-13, and then like you said, in the third quarter, they outscored them 26-12, and that was a huge struggle for a while there, but this time they were able to get it together and make sure that they have a hot start. Now, they host the Waynesburg Invitational this weekend. What are we going to see with that? Who's going to be here? Who are they playing?
So they're first playing on Friday night. They're playing Mount Union. That's one of the harder teams that they're going to have on the board. And then in that one also, they move on to Saturday. They're going to play Penn State Barron to close it out. They play the first and the second games. For this, it really comes down to what are they going to be able to do with this time. I think the big thing also to mention is that Jules Moorbacher currently still playing with the women's soccer team. So she hasn't been able to practice with this team either. Not even play games, not even practice, has been with soccer majority of this time. So one of the players that starts majority of these games and started majority of last season's games won't be starting in the beginning areas. I think that's where you're seeing Clara Page Miller come in, playing some more key roles there. Macy Justice is kind of moving into that 4 slot as well a few times. She's also been able to shoot as well, so that's been helping. And then you have Grace Corley, one of the sophomore transfers that came in. She played very well yesterday. All of her points came from the free throw line. So it's really just dependent on, for this weekend, take the time to know what you're going to do at home. Right now, they don't have another away game until 2026. 7 straight home matchups.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Amazing scheduling by Coach Jones, man. But it really just comes down to take these home games that you can with a strong head, go in, win majority of them, you'll come out on top.
So we have this tournament coming up, and then they also play Hood the next Tuesday, and then it goes into conference play the following week where they play St. Vincent at home. So, Joe, how are these games? What can they do to prepare to be ready for conference play with these non-conference games? What can they do to make sure that they're ready for St. Vincent in a couple weeks?
Not be selfish. You can't be selfish in these aspects. There's a lot of times that this team in the past has been noticeable with their ball handling that is only to 1 or 2 players in their drives. They're very quick. That sometimes can be a good thing and a bad thing. It happened in that third quarter yesterday. I was able to be on the sidelines announcing, but in that third quarter, it really came down to the fact that there was a lot of miscommunications early on where balls were being thrown. It was thought to be to one person, didn't go to the other. It just didn't go well. So slow it down, relax, find your way through. I know that for me, it just sounds like one thing, but it's really how it is that take your time with it, pass it around, don't be the selfish one on the team. It'll come out great for them.
Well, thank you so much, Joe, for joining us on the desk and talking about women's basketball. We're going to be talking about the men's side here coming up with Benicio DeFalco. Don't go anywhere. We'll go back into the desk. This time we're transitioning to the men's side of basketball. They started the season 3-2 so far, but are on a 2-game losing streak after the tournament that they just played. And to talk about that, I have with me Benicio DeFalco. Now, Benicio, they're coming off the OmniLink Waynesburg tip-off with Mount Union, Case Western, Muhlenberg. It wasn't the best tournament for them.
Yeah, not at all, especially after a 3-0 start. The tournament started versus Case Western Reserve in 89-61 loss. They trailed 32-10 at midway through the first, and then 54-21 at half. Case Western Reserve just couldn't seem to miss. Although Waynesburg did have some positive, as Aiden Blake was the star of the show with 21 points. He also shot 50% from the field. Jalen Goins made his come back to the court after missing a few games. He only put up 6 points, but it was nice to see him back in the lineup. We saw some other guys get extended minutes because it was a blowout, and Preston Lazarder scoring 6 points, and then Justin Prasco scoring 5. And then versus Muhlenberg, it was the same story, 67-43 loss. Jalen Goins scored 9 points in that. Scott Bilvis was the leading scorer with 10, in which 9 of which came from the three-point line. Preston Lazarder also put up 7 points in this. So he was a benefit of the two blowouts, someone that doesn't get much minutes down the stretch to this point. He made an impact.
Yeah, and Mount Union did win the tournament over Case Western. Mount Union, a very dominant school in a lot of their athletics. But tonight, as we're filming this, they are playing Pitt Greensburg, which they've played over the years in non-conference play, getting ready. So what should we expect from that game tonight, Benny?
I'd expect Waynesburg to try to lean on their most consistent players this season, being in Scott Bilvis and Aiden Blake. I'd expect Aiden Blake to be in the starting lineup. The guy has been absolutely balling, especially with Jackson Rhodes being out, assuming that he will be out today. You're also going to need some of the other guys to step up. And Grant Barnhart, who's a three-point specialist, if he can get hot, this Waynesburg team could be a threat. And then Cam Dancer, who's been in the starting lineup all season. He's a big man on this team. He's due for a breakout game. His career high to this point has only been 5 points, so he's due.
Mm-hmm. And then we have Oberlin coming up this week as well before conference play. Do you think that these non-conference, how important are these non-conferences before we get into section play?
So I'd say that the non-conference play is important, but obviously it doesn't lead an impact into the playoffs and, you know, the PAC, all that good stuff. But I would allow your lineup to start to get healthy. I'm not sure if I'd play Jackson Rhodes to this point, as he's been the #1 option for this team. But with that being said, you still want to go out there and compete, build some confidence and chemistry for the rest of the season, because those games that come down in the stretch in PAC play, they're won right now. This is when the time and the work is put in, and it's honestly when you start building chemistry with the guys.
And you mentioned that, and we've talked about it a lot before, chemistry. We didn't really see a lot of it last year. It seemed like there was a lot of individualism and a lack of chemistry. But as we've gone through the season so far, we've talked about it together personally on how this team seems to be more connected. They seem to be playing more with each other. How important is that to go throughout the season and have that chemistry rather than individualists?
I mean, it's huge. Anytime someone, takes a quote-unquote dumb shot, going down the floor, maybe it's a fast break attempt at three-pointer, there's no pointing fingers. No one's mad in the huddle. This is a completely different team from last season. They're shooting more three-pointers than ever before. They still lean on that defense and rebounding aspect, but no one's pointing fingers. They're allowing the offense to do pretty much whatever they want, and that's what I like about Tim Fusina this year. He's given this young lineup complete freedom to the offense.
And they have struggled a little bit. What do you think is the main concern, or what they should focus on to kind of bounce back? And, they say they've been shooting a lot of threes. Is there maybe too many? Do they need to focus more on the paint? Like, what do you think they need to do to kind of get back into it and not struggle as much as they did in this tournament?
I'd like for this team to play a little faster. And when I say that, I mean they get a defensive rebound. I want them to already be looking down the court. Mm-hmm. And we got some guys that play extremely well in transition. And also, I think they've strived from that three-point range, but I think they should go back to the bread and butter, what we saw just a season ago, and score more points in the paint. I mean, they're more free than the three-pointers. So, sometimes you're going to have those days you're not shooting well from the arc. Well, make things easier for yourself and score some points in the paint.
Well, thank you, Benny, for sitting on the desk talking about some men's basketball. They have a pretty good start to the season, but I guess we'll see what transpires this week. Next up, we got women's soccer, who's in the ECAC Championship. Anthony DiFilippo will be up at the desk to talk about it. Welcome back up to the desk. My name is Seth Adams, and we're talking about women's soccer. They are in the ECAC Championship. They just defeated Pitt Greensburg in a 3-2 overtime thriller. And on my left, I got Anthony DiFilippo to talk about that game, a really, really exciting one. Flip, break it down for us. What happened?
So this was a game where both teams kind of went back and forth with scoring a little bit. Waynesburg struck first. They didn't score at all the last time these two teams met back on September 10th. Jules Moorbacher took a pass from Miracle Hershey, who's been fantastic every single playoff game she's played so far this season. And then Megan Hickey on the other end, one of the scoring leaders for Pitt Greensburg, came down and scored on a breakaway. It was kind of a situation where Abby Googie was caught a little bit flat-footed, and Hickey just kind of burned right by her. Then in the second half, it was the other way around. With like 15 minutes left to go or so in the contest, Pitt Greensburg scored off sort of a fluky goal, went off of Googie's foot and into the back of the net. And then Haley Gilchrist, which originally looked like it was an attempted pass, but watching it back on the replay, it wasn't. She actually sent a perfect shot into the net. And then that was it for regulation. Overtime came around. Ethan Spazarski and myself were on the call on the Waynesburg University Sports Network, and Amanda Pepe, just over 6 minutes into overtime, ended the game. So what a season this has been for Waynesburg.
Yeah.
What a group this has been for this Yellow Jacket women's team. At the beginning of the year, you kind of had the feeling that this was going to be a special season.
Yeah.
But to this degree, I had no clue.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, the fact that we're still able to talk about soccer this late into November, it's been really, really fun. And now they got another game coming up against an opponent that's pretty far away, Flip. They're coming all the way down from New Hampshire. Who are they? Where are they? What's going on there?
So the team name is the Keene State Owls. They had a 10-5-6 overall record, but a 4-0-4 record in their conference, the Little East Conference, up in Keene, New Hampshire. It's a 10-hour, 30-minute drive down from Keene to here, so that's kind of crazy. But yeah, that's the team. They had a lot of ties this year. They drew 4 times in their conference. You never know what to expect because Waynesburg's never played any teams from the Little East Conference, so you don't know what kind of competition. They're another team that finished second in their conference, lost in the championship game. Every team in the field of 4 in the ECAC did that. So what to expect, I'm not quite sure, but I'm excited to see how Waynesburg responds to a team that they've never played or what the game's going to look like. I expect a lot of feeling out at the beginning of the contest.
Yeah, and there is a lot of women on this team that have been truly stand out this whole entire season, but who do you really think is going to come through and kind of finish it off for them this year?
Well, that's why this is a team that had, 7 or 8 players get recognized in the President's Athletic Conference, first team, second team, and honorable mention. I expect the offense to continue to be fantastic for this Waynesburg University Yellow Jackets team. Jules Moorbacher, who we mentioned in the last segment, was one of those players who wasn't even able to practice with the basketball team yet because she's done so well this year on the soccer side of things. So I expect the offense of Moorbacher, Pepe, Gilchrist. Waverly Lorne, I thought, played one of her best games of the season in the ECAC semifinal game against Pitt Greensburg. And Abby Googie continues to be a workhorse for this team. She was given her correct honors. She was on the first team in the President's Athletic Conference. So it's really going to be a team effort, but I'm looking at those players, and of course it all starts with the goalkeeping of Lex Greenleaf as well.
Yeah, she has been amazing. Like you said, so many honors, so many all first team PAC, second team. It's been a truly one-of-a-kind season, but Flip, you mentioned it, in that game where they played against Pitt Greensburg, they're down, right? They're at one point, it was 2-1, it was getting a little grim, but then they came back and conquered and won. This team has been down a lot this season. What makes them so resilient? What makes them so strong to come back in these games and get the wins when it matters the most?
This team has the clutch mentality. They are so different than any other season in women's soccer program history. In fact, they've never won a game in the ECAC tournament. They've never even appeared in it. So to get to this point where you're playing in the ECAC Championship, they've just been so resilient all season long. You talked about it. They've come back from leads before. I personally, I'll be honest, I had almost no confidence that they were going to score a goal right at the end of that game. But I knew as soon as that ball went in off Abby Googie's leg that there's no way that's how this Waynesburg University Yellow Jackets season could end.
Yeah.
So, of course, they go back down. Haley Gilchrist takes a pass from Waverly Lorne, puts it in the back of the net. Once it gets to overtime with the home field advantage, Amanda Pepe does what she does best, scores a goal. So I have absolutely no qualms or doubt that this team will win on Saturday against Keene State. I don't even know the style of play that Keene State plays, to be honest with you, being from the Little East Conference. But I mean, home field advantage, Waynesburg has everything going.
Yeah, the home field advantage, I feel, is one of the biggest factors.
Absolutely.
Instead of having to 10.5-hour drive compared to just 5, you could even walk there. The impact that has is I feel, one of the most important parts of it. I mean,
Sleeping in your own bed is huge.
Yeah. And New Hampshire, they're from New Hampshire, and then they played a Jersey team, so they had a long travel there. But for Pitt and Waynesburg hasn't had to travel at all. They haven't been fatigued at all during this whole thing.
Never. Yeah, they stayed at home. Pitt Greensburg, that would not have been a super long drive. It was only about probably an hour 45 from Pitt Greensburg to get down here. But that 10.5-hour drive, I mean, that raised a lot of questions. Where they played at a neutral site, maybe somewhere in the middle. Wilkes-Barre was not officially brought up as a spot, but I would consider that to be somewhere in the middle. But the fact that Keene State is coming all the way down here, they have to get a hotel, they're playing in a spot or on a field that's not all that familiar to them. That's absolutely huge that Waynesburg gets the home field advantage. They'll have the fans behind them, and it should be an absolutely great game come 4 p.m. Saturday.
Well, thank you, Anthony, for joining us on the desk. It has been a really fun episode full of a lot of information. We thank you for joining us. We're going to have more content every week on Waynesburg Sports. We wish the women good luck this week, and we'll see you next week.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.